Coordinator for the City of Madison. Stacie.
Together a little presentation here and follow along as well. I apologize, I noticed my boots are a little bit muddy today. We did a tour earlier this afternoon of the biodigester just past Middleton, and it was a little muddy out there, so I apologize.
Long as it's mud.
Well, remains to be seen, right? Yeah. So again, yeah, my name is Stacie Reece. I'm the new Sustainability Program Coordinator for the City of Madison. I just started in November. Previously, I was actually with the City of Middleton, so I'm happy to see Mark here today. All right, some of our sustainability journey, just kind of talking a little bit about the history of sustainability for the City of Madison. We created a committee, a city committee, for developing a sustainability plan that developed in 2011, adopted in 2012 for the city. So you can see it has a lot of holistic, broad view of sustainability. These are sort of the guiding principles that we have set out for the City of Madison around sustainability. Each of these chapters have goals and actions. And then after the sustainability plan was laid out for the city, we actually converted that committee to a sustainability committee to then, again, keep driving action in the city. Specifically, we have a chapter on carbon and energy within the sustainability plan, and when we developed the plan back in 2011, 2012, our goals were to achieve 80% carbon reduction by 2050, as well as 25% of electricity, heating, and transportation energy from clean energy sources by 2025, which is coming up. That being said, our sustainability committee was actually tasked by the mayor's office about 2015, 2016 to come up with an energy plan for the City of Madison. And we developed this plan, had about a dozen or so different recommendations from the Sustainability Committee. But the first and foremost line of action was to go back to those goals that we had set in the Sustainability Plan and review those goals. A lot of things have been changing in the energy sector. The price of solar and wind had dropped. We also are seeing a lot of science coming out, a lot of reports from the science fields coming out about the urgency of taking bold action. We created a working group where we held public meetings. The public definitely came out in large numbers. We had some standing room only meetings. And the public asked of the working group to really set bold goals for the City of Madison. So our Sustainability Committee drafted a resolution for the city to achieve 100% renewable and zero net carbon for not only city operations, but the community as a whole. And that resolution was adopted in March of 2017. What's a little bit unique about this particular resolution is we didn't actually set date goals. The committee felt that they didn't have enough information, so the resolution also authorized the hiring of a consulting firm to really crunch all the numbers, look at all the data, look at all the most recent advancements in energy technology to let us know what's the fastest way we could get to 100%. And after working with them for a year and a half, they came out with the first draft of the 100% Renewable Madison report on November of last year when I started. So my hats switched from sitting on the Sustainability Committee to then staffing it as a Madison City staff member. And within this report, the consultants actually laid out 3 different pathways to achieve 100% renewable, net zero carbon. And basically the differences between those 3 scenarios and pathways were just a different mix of demand measures, so reducing our consumption through energy efficiency, supplying renewable energy for our consumption, transportation, as well as offsets of renewable energy credits. And so it's just a different mix of those that create different pathways. And the pathway that the Sustainability Committee is recommending to Council is Scenario 3. It's a longer term for city operations, but it's deeper investments and less offsets. And so we have a resolution accompanying this report that will be going before Council next Tuesday, actually, for voting for adoption. So we're really excited to bring this forward to fruition. After that, it'll be really looking at implementation, working with various commissions, committees, and boards, departments, putting together an implementation plan. This report really is just a snapshot of where we're at right now and the strategies to get there, but every year it'll be a process of developing implementation plans and submitting budget requests.
So do you think it's doable or it's a stretch?
It's definitely doable. I think when I talk about that sort of mix of energy efficiency measures, renewable energy, you could, if you wanted to, go out tomorrow and just buy a bunch of renewable energy credits, offset everything that you consume, and call it a day. But we really wanted to do deep investments that were going to be here for the long haul. So that's sort of the way we wanted to look at it. So yeah, it's 2030 for city operations and then the community as a whole. We're hoping that a lot of the actions that we do as a city leading will be able to kind of pivot then to the community as a whole and be that bridge for programs and policies.
Thank you.
So just kind of give you a little overview of it's kind of a moving target. I mentioned we've been working with the consulting firm over the last year and a half, but really the City of Madison's been doing energy efficiency, renewable energy measures, and we're looking forward as far as this report goes as implementing. So this is sort of a snapshot of what we've been up to and what we're going to be doing. Around energy efficiency, we have dedicated funding for new building and retro commissioning for existing buildings. We benchmark all of our buildings through Portfolio Manager. And again, you can't manage what you don't measure. We also have public sharing of all of our solar production. And we have, actually through a resolution, we actually have mandatory LEED certification for all new built buildings as well as all reconstruction on buildings. We also have a Facilities and Energy Management Leadership Academy program. So we meet on a quarterly basis, bringing in all the facilities managers or anybody that really touches the built environment, parks, operations, and helping them sort of understand how to manage the energy and their facilities, as well as to submit project proposals. For renewable energy, we've installed about a little over 600 kilowatt on rooftop behind the meter solar. And we actually started a new program just a few years ago called Green Power. It's where it's a training program where we hire underemployed individuals from our community, train them for 9 months on from start to finish a solar installation, with the end having certification so that they can be employable in the growing solar field. We're currently looking at off-site solar through MGD's Renewable Energy Rider. That's where any sort of large energy user can participate in large utility scale solar renewable projects. And we also have Madison, which started out as a residential group buy program, where we went out to solar developers and said, hey, if we can guarantee 30 contracts, what's the lowest price you could get us for a solar installation? We are now expanding that out for businesses to match the Focus on Energy rebate program that they have, their incentive program. And we're also going to be expanding it out to neighborhood associations, where we can help community organizations also get solar on the roof. And then we also are investing in 5 solar arrays totaling 14 megawatts throughout rural Wisconsin. So this is, again, talking a little bit about those renewable energy credits, where we can come to the table, be an investor in a renewable energy project, and then redeem those renewable energy credits to offset our consumption. And the values that we put out there for renewable energy credits were that they had to be additionality, so they have to be new renewable energy on the grid. We don't want to invest in a 10-year-old wind farm in Texas. We want to make sure it's in our backyard. We want to make sure that our area communities are benefiting from these solar arrays. So these are some of the if we are going to have renewable energy credits, and there are some stubborn pieces of our footprint, then we want to make sure to have those values behind that. And then as far as our transportation goes, we currently have 3 EV sedans in our fleet. And we, last year, through the Office of Energy Innovation, were awarded a grant to purchase 20 more electric vehicle Chevrolet Bolts. And for our public transit, we have a Madison in Motion program looking at bus rapid transit, Job Ride Plus, where we're getting folks to those business districts that are really hard to get to through public transit. Looking at complete streets, and then bikes and pedestrians. Yeah.
So, Stacie, interested in the transportation aspects of that. Are those energy saving, bus rapid transit, is that the point of that? And the complete streets for bikes and pedestrians? I think of those as transportation matters and efficiency, but are they energy reductions of some kind? Or?
So we kind of look at transportation as sort of a multimodal approach. With bus rapid transit, when we spoke with our transportation director, who's pushing the bus rapid transit out there, we can basically calculate ridership and make that assumption that they're not driving a single occupancy internal combustion engine vehicle. So what does that look like as far as overall footprint? And being that transportation is the largest in region emission for Dane County, it's doing something about that for the community. We're also looking at some innovations in just traffic engineering with swapping out for LED streetlights with some sensors so that we can have more efficient traffic through the Smart Cities Collaborative. We also have 3 electric vehicle buses that we will be taking into our fleet in 2020. We are a little bit limited right now with how many we can take in because our current bus fleet barn is at 150% capacity. It also needs a lot of repairs. As some folks know, in facilities, taking care of all your buildings is a must. But we are also looking at a satellite location that we can outfit with both compressed natural gas and electric charging stations so that we can start ramping up more alternative vehicles in our bus fleet. And we're also looking at ways we can expand out EV infrastructure. Again, whether it's single occupancy vehicles looking for a place to charge downtown, how can we have spaces in our garages and spaces curbside to have EV charging. I'm going to expand out a little bit, sort of Dane County-wide, but there's a lot going on even beyond Madison. So Dane County opened their Office of Energy and Climate Change, and Keith Rippel is the director of that. And for the last couple of years, he has convened the Dane County Council on Climate Change, where bringing together stakeholders throughout the county area. And what kind of organically kind of occurred from these meetings is that we were sitting across the table from other municipalities throughout Dane County. And as we got talking, we were dealing with a lot of the same things. So we decided to kind of create a municipal working group where we can get together on a semi-regular basis and start talking about some of those issues. And what was one of the first things that came out of that was sharing out about the 100% renewable energy resolution and having other communities look at possible resolutions. And I'm happy to say that Middleton passed their resolution last summer. And just in the past few weeks, Fitchburg and City of Winona as well passing similar 100% renewable resolutions. So if you're interested in learning more about what those resolutions look like, what the process is, this is really a sharing out group, and we want to make sure that it's a regional-wide approach to 100% renewable net zero carbon.
And partly thank you to Tracy. She was there in Middleton at the time. So.
How often does that group meet?
So it's been sort of, we'll just kind of shoot an email out and say, hey, who wants to get together to meet? It's been pretty quarterly, I would say.
Okay.
Yeah, I think with the Dane County Council meeting on a semi-regular basis, we see each other there. So meeting outside of that was sort of in addition, but now that the council had their last meeting just a few Fridays ago, I think that we're probably gonna have more regularly scheduled meetings.
Okay.
So if anyone's interested in sitting in on one of those, we would be more than happy to expand out the group. I know that also through that sort of that collaborative effort of communities, last year there were 7 communities that were awarded a grant through the Office of Energy Innovation to do energy planning. So again, getting together, joining forces, looking at resources such as opportunities such as that. Some other ideas that we're kind of bantering around is group buys. I actually saw out of the city of Philadelphia and about 37 other surrounding communities went in on a group buy on LEDs so they could bring down the price really low and sharing that resources across communities. We're looking at difficult to handle waste products. I know in Fitchburg, batteries was a big concern. So we're kind of looking at ways that we can, again, pool resources so it's not just everyone for themselves, but we all have the same, waste streams. We all have the similar goals around recycling and composting organics. So how can we get together to make that happen? And then also just a clearinghouse for events and projects. Just as we started having these conversations together, we realized that we were kind of duplicating efforts, or we just didn't hear about things that were happening in each other's communities. So how can we open up those communication streams? So some of the other things that our sustainability committee at Madison are looking at, and then bringing myself on as a new position, what sort of I will be doing as support as staff. We're bringing public health and an equity lens into our energy and carbon goals. We hired Annette Miller with Equity by Design to basically work with us as we start developing those implementation plans that I mentioned. So if we're working, say, with transportation on electrifying our metro fleet, thinking a little bit about how that looks in our community, who does that serve in our community, and how we can make sure it's a more equitable distribution of benefits. And then also public health, we actually have, are working with some folks at the university to do a public health analysis. What are the public health co-benefits really of having a clean fuel source for our energy production and our transportation footprint? We're looking at sustainable purchasing. That's something that's kind of been on the back burner for a long time. So we have an intern working with us from Edgewood to look at some of our purchasing. And I don't know if it's the same in your community, but basically purchasing, everyone's got a P card. They just kind of go around and purchase as needed. So there's no real centralized way to do these sort of checks and balances. So how can we start educating on sort of best practices around sustainable purchasing? We're also looking at organics. That's something that we piloted at the City of Madison and had to put on pause because we need to retool that program. But as we started talking with other communities in the area, they were also interested in potentially a food or organics program. So again, if we can pool resources, the economics make sense that the more tonnage of organic material you get, the more you're going to get bang for your buck as far as methane production. So that's something that we want to make sure that we are including other communities for that. We also have a representation on a work group looking at integrated pest management, so pesticide use throughout the city on all of our city-owned properties. We also are looking at our urban canopy. We're trying to increase the amount of green that we have, and also looking at sort of the energy benefits of that as well as the health benefits of that. And we're also shifting a little bit to adaptation and resilience. So everyone probably remembers last August and the large flooding events in many communities were heavily affected by that. And Madison was also as well. And I like this picture. This has the National Guard, but you see a little kiddo over there kind of splashing around to the left of there. It's just interesting justification of our community being, impacted. But we also wanted to kind of take a step back and think about the who that was impacted. At one point, we were almost going to have 1,700 different residencies evacuate due to flash flooding. And when we started asking around about who those individuals are, who those residents were, we found out that there are some that have, maybe they are wheelchair bound, maybe they have some other sort of health issues that need to be have attention to. So we started working with some of the social programs in the area to identify the more vulnerable populations for future flooding events and more. So I'm just going to kind of wrap up. This is actually a video that I, prior to working for local units of government, I worked for Sustain Day, working with the business community on sustainability projects. And I show this video at every first day of training to the business community and their green teams. So I highly recommend it. It's from NASA, and actually this is fairly old. This is from 2006, so they might even have a more updated version. But it just shows a year in the life of carbon emissions throughout the globe. And what's important to kind of realize when you watch this is that carbon does not adhere to any jurisdictional, municipal borders, county borders, state borders, etc. So it really shows that we're in this together. So that's kind of why I kind of want to throw that out to you to ask you to kind of join in sort of the renewable energy, net zero carbon goals, and working with other municipalities so that we can all achieve those goals together. And with that, I'll wrap up and leave it open for any Q&A from the audience.
Stacie, when it comes to solar power, do you feel like the technology is kind of stabilized, that it's not going to be outdated in a couple of years after it's installed?
No, in fact, I would say the technology on solar has increased dramatically, and that's where you're seeing a lot of those costs come down. Where they do have, we do sort of a contract with solar, you're getting like a 25 to 30 year lifespan out of a solar array, whether rooftop or larger. And they do have a slight percentage decrease over that time, but it's like a 2% decrease. So you're still getting a good solar production even after 25 years.
Okay. But let me put it a different way. The early solar panels were outdated, 5 years after they were put in. But the technology has evolved where it's not going to be outdated within a few years after it's installed, correct?
Correct, and that's a lot of the solar installers. If you have a purchase power agreement, they will guarantee that solar production throughout the lifetime of the array.
Okay. Other questions? John?
The Madison that you do?
Yeah.
Is it up to the individual homeowner to contribute? Is there a subsidy from the city that offsets some of that? Like, how did you get the pricing? What was it? Were there stipulations to that?
So we put out a bid, an RFP for solar developers to submit what's the lowest price you could give us if we could give you 30 contracts. And that means that they will be purchasing in bulk, which saves them costs as well. And it also guarantees them work for that year. So that's where we were able to get that price really low. We also worked with Summit Credit Union to offer low loans for that upfront cost for homeowners as well. With the business side, it was more of a rebate incentive matching with focus on energy. And 2019 is a big year because it is for the federal tax credit is at its highest amount, which is 30%. It'll ratchet down after that. So for commercial businesses, I think 2019 should be a really big push for solar. Yeah.
I have two questions. One of them, my son has solar power at his house, and okay, and he doesn't have any batteries. It goes directly into the grid, and he buys all of his power then off of the grid, so that he doesn't actually use it, but it goes to the grid. Would the municipalities be able to do that if they put on their buildings? Do you think that same offering would be available to them? Because then I look at it that he said there's some that have a switch that you can switch it, and you can be on power or solar power. You switch it back, and you have to have a lot of batteries, which and then you have to worry about those batteries. He has no batteries. He just has the solar panels, and it goes. And he said he gets a rebate or a refund or whatever every month, and he just bought the house. So he said that his previous owner said it's about $40 a year for electricity in his house.
Yeah,
So
that's nice.
it has really been good for. So would municipalities be able to do that?
So it's a little bit different with municipalities. For us, with our behind-the-meter solar on our rooftop, with a little over 600 kilowatt that we've installed, it's about a little over 1% of our use. So it's not really giving us any sort of excess that we can put back onto the grid necessarily. There's also some gray areas as far as how you can work with leasing. So it's just like leasing a car instead of owning a car. So whether or not you own the panels or you lease the panels, which would be considered third party. There's some gray areas around that. And so we would not be able to participate in sort of the federal tax credits that make some of the pricing lower. So it just kind of depends. I know that there are some situations where you can work with your local utility to have they'll do like a algorithm or whatever of how much you use, how much you produce, and they'll kind of break down the difference from there. So there's a couple different financing vehicles for how to set it up and how to have contractual agreements around that.
Okay. So, and I have P&L for that an Alliant that does for my power, and I signed up years ago for 25% to be renewable energy.
Yep.
All right, but that costs more.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm wondering, one of the first slides, you said 100% renewable energy, and yet you were going to save $92 million over the next 13 years, and yet renewable energy costs me more. How are you going to get that savings with that higher cost supposedly that I'm paying, Alliant Energy?
Right, and so I think there's, we're in MG&E territory, and Madison Gas and Electric have their Green Power Tomorrow program where you can pay a cent extra per kilowatt hour on your bill, and you are guaranteed to have your energy from a renewable energy source. what those investments that we're looking at, they're actually looking at a lot of other sort of returns on our investment that are deeper than just, relying on the utility to have their fuel mix be renewable energy. So if, say, we participate in, say, a renewable energy rider program, so there's a large scale, utility scale, so like 5 megawatt sort of size project of solar, we would then participate in that project and lock in a rate over time, which would be a savings over time. Or if we do our own renewable energy on our rooftops, we're saving that money on our energy bill. For electric fleet buses, over the lifetime of an electric fleet bus, there's money up front because they're more expensive than diesel, but there's less moving parts and less maintenance. And so over the lifetime of that vehicle, they actually are less expensive than diesel. So the consultants that put together that report, they kind of did sort of what are we saving in operations? What are we saving in capital costs over time? And that's sort of where you're seeing those savings in the long run.
Any other questions?
Stacie, do you happen to know that when you compare the LED lights and the regular lights, street lights as well as traffic lights, how much is the difference in energy use?
Ooh, that's a good question. It's a good low-hanging fruit to do. I know that with lighting in general, when I worked with the business community, that's kind of the first thing that we'd always talk about as an LED retrofit. I know that we worked with SBA over on the west side, and they did an LED retrofit in their parking lot, and they were able to save like $10,000 a year in energy savings. So we're talking about a parking lot, and then we extrapolate that out to a citywide. We're talking about significant savings.
Thank you.
In Deerfield, we're hopefully fortunate enough to have a company come in, and they actually installed an solar array at our wastewater treatment plant, and they also did the high school. So at the village, we're waiting to see the savings on the wastewater treatment plant. So hopefully it's a good deal.
Yeah,
It looked good and sounded good, so.
looks promising.
The promise is,
Okay, let's give Stacie a round of applause.
Thank you.